makes sense to do that. Moving on to radio, we have 46 radio stations in this market. We're ranked 19th in the country, and this is just a handful of the ones that we pulled. So the strength is through programming, you can appeal to specific audiences. You have a really good option for frequency because they take varying spot lengths. So if you don't have a budget that can accommodate 60s, but you can afford 15s, then you can still use the medium and still get your message out. And your copy can be changed with little notice. Sometimes changing copy can take a while. So radio is one that can pretty much within 24 hours you can have it changed. And then fragmentation is a concern because not only is there a lot of different radio stations, and we look at things like CUME, we look at things like duplication. So, you know, which stations duplicate. You have a POI and you have an FLZ or 93.3 and a 101.5. There's a lot of duplication between the two. So would you need to buy both of them? Or do you want to look at the stronger one? If you look at male, female, there's just a lot of things that come into play. But then also you've got Apple Music, Pandora, Spotify, and others that are coming in. And sometimes it's better to use one of these others if you don't, one, the clutter of commercials. I know one time I lost count at 12 commercials during a break. And to be advertiser number 8, you've got to have a lot of frequency out there to really cut through that clutter. Where with Pandora or Spotify, it's not quite that overdone. The only thing is Spotify does not tell us how many uniques they have in any given market, where Pandora will. So it's really just gets down to the goal you're trying to achieve and what money you have to work with.
Cherie, if I could just jump in real quick. I think everyone knows that what copy means, but just in case, copy is the creative, or it's the message or the ad itself. And you know, we talked earlier about the copywriter who writes the words. That's where copy comes from. So it's just shorthand for the message or the creative itself.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, Cherie, you talked about frequency. When you're advising clients and they say, well, I've got $1,000 and I love WFLA radio, can I buy some commercials there? Do you talk to them about, okay, you need to have 2 or 3 spots. I'm sorry, you need to touch that audience 2 or 3 times for them to remember. So the reach and frequency conversation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we get that a lot, and it depends on, and sometimes we won't have a budget. It's just, I want to do this, what's it going to cost, and what have you. So it used to be that frequency, the rule of thumb was you could, if you hit someone 3 times within the given campaign, that was a good message, and it was good timing, and they should be able to remember your message. Say it's a 2-week campaign and you want to have a 3 frequency. But nowadays, I don't think you can walk 10 feet outside your door without being hit with some kind of advertising message, whether it's on your phone, whether it's a billboard, a newspaper. They wrap cars now. There's just all kinds of advertising that's just everywhere you go. So now that rule of thumb is almost at a 14, which is a lot. So there are some people that can afford that kind of budgeting and that kind of messaging, and there's people who can't. So Cherie, to your point, a spot on FLA, if you've only got $1,000, it's right now you're probably looking at $250 a spot. So if that's only going to get you 5 spots, that's probably not going to work well for what you want to do. So it's really knowing, again, your market, your budget, and what your goals are, and then come back with, based on this is what we can do and this is what we can recommend. But the reach and frequency is very important. And then the reach is really just how many people would say we have a demographic of Carrie's running for mayor, so we're targeting 25 to 54. If we can reach 50 to 70% of those people, that would be a really nice reach. And then if we can get them at least 8 or 9 times, that could probably be very doable. To have a 90% reach and a 14, 15 frequency, you would pretty much have to be on television, and it would have to be pretty heavy to do that. So even though they say 14 frequency, it's really how do you get there? And again, a lot of that has to do with layering in different mediums instead of relying just on one to do what you need to do. And again, there's always exceptions, which we're going to get to here in a second. But for the most part, the more blending, the more different ways you can target people and hit that demo, the better off you're going to be.
Awesome.
Okay, getting into print. The Tampa Bay Times has the largest reach of any paper. They are publishing now on Wednesdays and Sundays. So again, depending on what your targeting is, it's a great way to reach people. There's also a lot of weeklies and neighborhood papers and lifestyle type publications, which we've lifted off to the side. Some of these are monthlies, some are, again, weeklies, and have different interest. So the advantages of print are contains local information, which is important to readers, plus the news is fresh every day. So you have new, fresh content. People can spend time, take their time with the paper, and actually look at the ads, look at the creative, and get more space for your message across to the reader. You just have a lot more landscape to work, or inventory to work with. However, with the cost of newsprint, plus that reading habits have changed, especially with younger demos, newspapers are creating different ways to engage their readers. A lot of that is online, a lot of that's digitally, but it's an important part of media and traditional media, and it's still very viable and needs to be purchased. Out of home options, I think you've all seen them, just huge giant displays. You can look at bulletins, digital bulletins, transit, which is the buses, bus shelters, mobile billboards, kiosk, door hangers, street market. There's just a myriad of outdoor options for you. In fact, we just did a mobile truck for games 5 and 6 at Amalie Arena. And they just drove around the crowd that was there watching the lightning. So there's all different ways you can work with out of home. I think the more unique, and if you look at the bus and the slide having a snake wrapped around it, just very unique ways of doing it really makes it stand out. The advantages are you can build a large area of the mobile population in many markets. This is a great outdoor market because we don't really have mass transit here, so a lot of people are driving everywhere, and it seems like it's just, even with COVID, it seems like more and more people are out on the streets these days. So you have that. It's a huge size. It's 24/7 messaging, except with digital, but the static boards are all 24/7. The digital boards, there's usually 8 advertisers on them, and then it's just by, I think Pinellas County is 7 seconds and Hillsborough County is 10 seconds. But with digital, you can change your messaging often. You can have one message in the morning, one in the evening. They even have technology now where if you're at a stoplight, the camera on the board can be able to see someone in a white Toyota, and they may address that white Toyota and tell them to switch to a Ford truck. It's just really fascinating what they can do now. So digital billboards are going to be more and more using technology to target and create. They can measure how long you've been in your car waiting. So they can change the creative and address the wait, go get some coffee, take this exit, whatever the case may be. The disadvantage is it needs to be limited, so you've only got a very short period of time. I'm sure we've all seen billboards where there's almost a paragraph on it, and you're trying to get you to convey to pick up that message when you're driving by at 50 miles an hour. So the rule of thumb for outdoor is 7 words or less. Some people do a great job at it, and some don't. But it's a very good viable medium as well. All right, and then we have direct mail. Again, it's not as broad reach, but it is very personal. Here are just a few, whether it's a self-mailer, mailing list, catalogs, new mover packages, Valpak, shared mail. All of those are types of direct mail. Shared mail is the least expensive, and that actually advertisers share the cost of it. So coupon day, and you just have all seen those in your mailbox. Most target audiences are already known, so the delivery message is very pinpointed. It's easily tracked if you have some kind of bounce back coupon, and it's very personal because typically your name and address it's addressed directly to you, not necessarily the household or whoever resides at. It's got Carrie O'Reilly's name on it. It can be very expensive with postage and production. Most pieces are oversized, and typically you have to order a lot of them to have any kind of cost savings. And that's traditional media.
Awesome. Thank you, Cherie.
You're welcome.
What questions do you have for Cherie? We'll give you a minute to compose them in the chat. I've got a couple.
I know I went fast, and I saw that Isabel used to intern at the Joy FM. Oh, that's what I wanted to tell you guys too, is with outdoor. So we work with the Joy FM, and we have been doing nothing but outdoor for them for a number of years. They were trying to get their ratings up in the market, and couldn't really afford television, and they have a very broad audience they're trying to reach. It goes from Sebring up to Gainesville, and then including Jacksonville, and now they're in Georgia. So we started with it's a remnant outdoor campaign, so we're buying a lot of boards for them, but at a discounted rate, but we allow the outdoor company to move them around. So it's kind of a win-win. So they're moving the boards as they need them, so it gives us additional reach, but at a lower cost, so we're still able to get that movement moving around. And for the past several books, they've actually been #1 with women 25-54. So it's been a very, very good move for them, and it's something I think they'll probably continue to do for a while.
Yeah, that is interesting. Isabel, you were probably there helping make those decisions, I bet. Hey, so Cherie, you talked about women 25-54. Can you talk about the value of different audience segments? You know, when we launched TBT, some advertisers would say, yeah, it's great that you're reaching a younger audience, but I want somebody who's going to be purchasing SUVs or luxury cars, and that's not your 25-year-old. So do you ever find businesses trying to reach an audience that is going to spend more money versus, you know, an audience that's necessarily younger or older?
Yes. So let me give you an example. So right now we work with Big Hair, and Big Hair obviously wants to target people who have health insurance because they can't really turn people away, but where they're going to make their most money obviously is through the insurance companies, and they want to make sure that who we target has health insurance. So we do a lot of market research because through HIPAA laws, we can't really get into, do you have health insurance? Do you don't have, we can't really ask those kind of questions. So what we look at are for TV, We look at where we're going to have the most reach. We look at a lot of news. It's more in targeting that person. With the print, we do the same thing. We do a lot with the Times, with print. So it's kind of skewed more to where those people are more likely going to be. Sometimes you can get more specific, particularly with digital. If we want to target those people that have an interest in, let's say we are going to sell Fords and we want to sell F-150s. So through digital, you can pretty much look at people and target people who have an interest in trucks. Or even if it's a competitor, you can do things like that. But again, from a traditional standpoint, we do research that says, okay, of those people who purchase trucks, what radio stations do they listen to? What print do they read? What TV programs do they like? And then we will customize our buys based on those interests and what the research tells us. So some campaigns are very, like for instance, your group with 97X, that's going to be a very specific audience you're going toward because someone 65 may like it, but the majority of 65 plus people probably aren't going to listen to that. So you don't want to put your money in areas or programs that are really going to super serve that segment. The nice thing too about, to me, traditional is, yes, you can be somewhat specific, but you're going to have older and younger on any demographic that you're buying just by the nature of what it is. When it comes to digital, you can be super precise where you don't necessarily have, you can even target the demo that you want with digital. So, and I know we don't want to spend a lot of time there, but it's just some differences. You can look at the programs that rank the highest within that demo, and it could be anything. It could be adults 18-34, depending on what you're going after. I think a lot of the fast food, it might be 18-49, or you can go to a 35 to 64-year-old with healthcare because they're the ones that are probably more serious about it and have their insurance in place, and maybe you're starting to have some health issues. So the programming then needs to be targeted a little bit older on that side. Hope I answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Class, you got anything ready for Cherie? Well, keep thinking. I'll throw out another. So Cherie, some of the students may be thinking or wondering, okay, if the Tampa Bay Times wants to purchase 5 billboards, and we come to you, and you go to the billboard company, and the 5 billboards cost $25,000. How does the business end of it work? So does the media company get a percentage of that $25,000 on top of the sale, or do some companies have you on a retainer? Would you talk a little bit about that, and has that evolved over time?
Yes and yes. So there are very few media vendors now that offer what Carrie's referring to as a commission. So outdoor is, we would go in and negotiate on a client's behalf, but whatever that rate is what gets passed on to the client. If we do buy TV, and say there, and typically the agency commission is 15%. So if we spend $100, that would mean that we would make $15, and that then the client still pays $100, but 85 of it goes to the TV station and 15 of it comes to us. However, because it's not consistent across the board, typically what agencies do now is they are on retainers, or it could be there's a commission split, which we've done. So those vendors that offer commission, it's a split. So it might be 7.5 or 10% for us and 5 for the client, whatever that case may be. So it's really important to make it very clear up front exactly what fees are included. and what is going to that agency or that buying service, and then what is going to the vendor.
That's interesting. Do
Mhm.
some arrangements work like a performance based? Like, hey, if I don't sell 100 cars, or if I sell 500 cars, then we'll pay you X. If I only sell 200 cars, we're going to pay you Y.
No, we don't work that way. So we need to know as we go forward, and I guess that really our client base doesn't have that mindset. However, there was someone that we did work with at one time that actually in our meetings talked to the media and offered something like that. Like, if you can sell this place out for this particular game, I will give you X amount of money. That's kind of just something we weren't comfortable with. Just these days, but anyway, it happened. But honestly, I think that if that's the way that particular client wants to do business, that company would have to be comfortable with that up front, because the work is the work. Really, no matter how many cars they sell. I mean, if you do your homework and you do your research, you should be able to sell whatever number of cars is realistic. But you're doing that same work no matter what. So
Mhm.
that's the way we look at it. It's really just getting your time covered.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess I'd heard about some digital agencies that are performance based. Is that something that is more of a digital method?
We have not run into that, but then we're not 100% digital, a 100% digital company either.
Uh-huh.
But none of the clients that we buy digital for have approached us with that.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Um, and we love digital because you get reporting, you get a ton of data, and you can target. Do you
Hmm.
find that over the past, let's say, 15 years, that clients may be asking for more digital because they just want to have that trackability and the data, when that's maybe not everything that you should keep in mind?
Right. So there's a couple of examples, and quite honestly, I mean, and we buy digital, but it does get frustrating from our point, and especially if that slide that we had showed about all the digital companies that are using television. But it seems like a lot of directors in that digital space, they want to be able to go to their CEO and say, we spent this, here's exactly where it went, here's the performance, here's our conversions, here's where it all fits. But the problem is, when you have television or radio or newspaper, and even outdoor for that matter, even if there is a number or a coding on it, because it is so broad, it drives awareness, and you can't put awareness in a spreadsheet. And we had a situation once where we did a campaign and there was no digital behind it. And it's been a little bit of a, not struggle, but one of the people in this group is very believes that everything ties into digital. That's all you need to do, that you can track it from A to Z every step of the way, and it's this perfect thing. But what happened was we launched a campaign, and all of a sudden, all this organic search went through the roof, and nobody could figure out why.
Mhm.
And it was because it was a television campaign. We had TV, print, and that was it, just those two mediums running. And it just resonated with people, where all of a sudden they were just going to the website, and it couldn't be tracked back to, well, which one was it? And it's not designed to do that. So I think as long as people can remember that traditional is for awareness, which creates then the action to go to digital, but to just come out with digital by itself and expect great results. And there's always exceptions. We did a campaign for a college, and the one gentleman wanted nothing but digital, had been doing digital. So we came in and all we did, I think, was a little bit of radio and some targeted print um, for that particular campaign. And you could see the results that the awareness part of it, the impact that had on the digital side. So I am not about here and say one's better than the other. They each have different functions. They really should go together. But it's very difficult for a digital person who's truly in that mindset to give credit for awareness tactics, which really do help drive traffic as well.
Yeah, I like what you said that, there are different tools in the toolbox. TV is great at telling a
Mm-hmm.
story, the capturing your emotions. We've talked a lot in class about the importance of triggering those emotions to then get you to start to think about the logical side of the pitch. Print, whether it's newspapers or magazines, is one of the few mediums that's welcomed into your home that has advertising, and readers have told us that if you took the ads out, it wouldn't be as enriching of an experience. So, and digital, when you're scrolling through your feed, it's there. It can be helpful. It can be funny. You can have video, tons of great value, super targeted. So it's just which tool is right, and when you put them all together, that's when you really have the magic happen.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's just a matter also of just switching up your tactics.
Mm-hmm.
I know we did, I'm not going to steal Nikki's thunder or anything, but we're doing a social campaign and she changed up the tactics and they saw just incredible results just by that one little change.
Mm-hmm.
So they all have their place, and that's the important thing. And I think that traditional does tend to be pushed to the side because I mean the technology and what you can do with digital is phenomenal. But right now it's kind of the wild, wild west out there still. And for instance, okay, let me give you an example. So we have Spotify and Pandora, and then you have a lot of the OTT. You have, oh my word, we'll just stick with Hulu right now. So you have all that, and then as a buyer, you're trying to figure out, okay, how many people, how many uniques do you have? Because an impression is an impression, but and I'm sure you've all seen this, where you get the same ad like maybe 10 times in one day, or you just getting it served over and over and over and over again. And that's because people are trying to buy impressions, but there's not enough different people out there who have downloaded that particular app to where you're not getting that heavy frequency. So Spotify, as I said, will not tell us how many uniques they have in Tampa Bay. Pandora will tell us that. So if we want to target adults 18-34, I can go to Pandora and say, okay, hey, they have 33% of 18-34-year-olds in this market that have downloaded the app. That's a pretty decent number. We can do the math. We know basically what that equates to from a thousands people perspective. But when you're looking at impressions, it can be the same 10 people 500 times. So that's where you've got to really be careful, and where until these digital companies start telling you what you're actually looking at, it's going to be very, very difficult. Hulu is one that will tell us in this market by demo how many people have downloaded Hulu. But then we have to go to now other companies because there's so many others. Sling doesn't tell us. So depending on where you want to be and how you want to get there, you just need to be very cautious and careful about what tactics you're using and why you're using them.
Yeah, that's great warning. Cherie, I want to wrap it up with just a question that might be on the minds of the students about getting into the business, maybe through the media side. Would you talk a little bit about, good entry points and maybe skill sets that you find among people who are successful in the space?
Yeah. So it's changed a lot, but I think that anyone, particularly the TV, radio stations, even outdoor for that matter, although the radio and TV seem to have more salespeople than outdoor does, and print for that matter. It's really, if you have a knack for knowing people, once you learn a product, it's fine. It can be very rewarding. You can make a lot of money in media sales. It's just you need to be a little tough skin because it is there's a lot of competition out there, both one for the job, and then once you get the job, if you want to work for Channel 8 or Channel 13, one of those, then you have other salespeople you're competing against and what have you. But it's a great business, and now they're even not only because everybody also sells digital. So if you went to work for a TV station, not only would you get to understand television, but you would also get some training in digital. Radio is the same way. They're all selling search, display. They're all selling all of it. And there just seems to be a tremendous demand across the board. So outdoor is also following suit. So you would not only learn how to sell outdoor, but they also now with the technology, I know that right now out front on all of their units has the ability to track traffic. So they're now able to tell us how many cars are going by 275 and West Shore on any given day at any given time. And they're incorporating that then with digital advertising. So it's multi-layered, and you would get an incredible foundation of knowledge. You just would, because it's not just selling commercials. It's selling, yes, commercials. Yes, you would learn all of the nuances that go with that particular medium, but then you're also getting all the exposure of digital and how it can complement.
And Cherie, is it safe to say that some sales reps are making six figures?
Easily, yes.
Yeah. Well, next week we have Mike Barbaro, so
oh my gosh,
he's always entertaining.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. So Mike, for those of you guys who haven't read ahead, is VP of Sales for iHeart Radio. So he started an outdoor. I think he started there, but he was an outdoor for a while, and
actually he was in radio, then outdoor, then now radio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
yeah. So he'll have a lot of great experience and tons of energy, and
yep.
he's probably hired hundreds of people throughout his career. All right, Cherie. Well, unless the class has anything else, I want to thank you so much. I'm going to briefly turn my camera back on just to give you another round of applause and show you my Rays shirt. Go Rays!
I know, I've got mine on too. I actually just gave it back to you. Do you have it? Yes, you do.
Yes, I'm good. Great. Well, thanks again, Cherie, and we look forward to having Nikki on in a couple of weeks. Say hi to the gang at Wenstrom, and as always, this was awesome class. I've got a number of questions, test questions here jotted down for the final. So
great.
Thanks again, Cherie.
All right, thanks so much. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Well, thank you for recording, Catalina. Class. Learn a lot. I know I always do when I talk to Cherie. So